Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming in. I hope you are enjoying the nice, cool-ish weather and also the food that we have over here. Okay, today I'm going to be talking a little bit about competitive analysis. And we're going to be looking at this from a UX perspective because that's a lot of my background. Along with my programming background, I've done UX. I do UX freelance for small businesses by the side as well, and I've been doing it for the past 5 years. But before that, here's a little bit about me. My name is Dodzi. That's how you pronounce it. I am a volunteer for Techlahoma. I do talks like this. I also co-organize a group with some other individuals that do the UX design group called OKC Design+Tech. I also am the local leader for the Interaction Design Foundation. If you're looking for just some ways to learn about UX by yourself at your own pace, it's a really good way. It's really cost effective. It's pretty cheap. I think it's $147 a year, and you can take all the courses that you want. You can collaborate with people. It's international. It's all over the world. So if you take a look at all the people all over the world, you can also make a network that way as well. Really quick, today's order of business. This is going to be a different talk for me because I usually focus a lot on slides and information, but today I'm going to try and get you guys into the action actually doing things. So if you have your cell phones, I'd recommend that you pull out your cell phones and get ready. If you have a tablet or a computer, I'd recommend you get that ready as well because we'll be doing that together. I'll kind of be splitting you up as we go through. But today we'll be doing just a small talk on businesses and competition. After that, we'll be doing a comparison of Pandora and Spotify. And there's a reason that this came up, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. After that, we'll do an overview of value propositions. And then we'll do a mock competitive analysis. So we'll just go into this and we'll find a company. I've already found a company. We're going to do a competitive analysis for them. These things usually take a while. We're going to try and condense it, which is why all of you will be participating as well so that we can aggregate what we find together into what would be deliverables that you'd give to somebody at the end of this. Now, competitive analysis, there are lots of ways to approach it. It isn't exactly 100% scientific, but it isn't exactly 100% opinionated either. So I'm going to have some opinions. Some of them might be really strong, but that's good. It's competitive analysis. You want to have strong opinions on this. You want to lean one way or another. It's okay. It's cool. But they are opinions. So
what's the password for Wi-Fi here?
The password for Wi-Fi? Okay, they got the Wi-Fi password, we're good. So really quick, we're looking at a MacBook. It just works. You're looking at a MacBook. And I have a secret. For the past almost 10 years, I've only owned MacBooks, and my MacBooks have only run Windows. Which is really strange. Why did you buy a MacBook if you're going to run Windows all the time? That's all I always ran, right? However, as of 2 weeks ago, so I'm fresh into this, I switched to being 100% Mac. So this is Mac OS, I have an iPad, everything 100% Mac. It just works, right? So I thought, and I went into it, and my UX brain is cranking, like, what is the experience as I transition over to being 100% Mac? Because I've been on Windows, shortcut keys work the same on Windows as they do on Linux. You can switch between the two. But then you go to Mac and the shortcut keys are very different. That got a little bit frustrating. And then there was the whole, you guys remember the talk a long time ago, whenever Mac was really giving the jabs to PC. It's like, I'm a Mac, I'm a PC. And PC had the whole permissions thing. Oh, you need permission to install this app. I'm like, well, it's Mac. It shouldn't have that. They have the same thing. They need permissions to install apps on their computers. I'm like, okay, so what's going on over here? And it's just been, as I go through the experience, I'm seeing different pain points, and I'm trying to connect those pain points that I have to what Apple really wants to do, right? And what Apple wants to do is what every company wants to do. And this is very important for us as we go into this this competitive analysis. Every company wants to maximize for their bottom lines and for their objectives. So, Windows, Linux, same shortcuts. Mac, different shortcuts. That means once I'm in their ecosystem and I get used to it, because I'm a human and I don't like to adjust, I am in their ecosystem. They're going to maximize for that in every way, shape, or form. Right? They're going to do it for every way, shape, or form. Maximizing for the bottom line. Microsoft does that too. Every company does this. It isn't any different across the board because businesses have to make money to thrive. They have to make money to stay in business. I'm sure at each one of your companies, if you look at a higher level than where we work on the day-to-day, you can see that your company is really maximizing for their bottom line by doing things that you're like, really? Was that necessary? So that's where my UX brain took me from this whole experience of getting used to being on Mac and being there. And I know that in another 6 months, I won't want to go back to Windows because I'm so used to the way Mac things works that I won't be able to go back, right? However, having had all that history in Windows, I'm also bringing into it, hey, in Windows, this actually works better than over here, right? And then if we actually think about it more, like if you look at it from the Microsoft perspective as well, Apple wants you to be in their ecosystem. They don't want you out. They're going to do everything possible to do that, right? I have an old Mac, still has ports, but the new Macs with the ports that don't have the ports, you buy their dongles because their dongles work best with their system. You spent $300 worth of dongles. Now you don't want to go to someplace else because you have their dongles. You're like, well, what am I going to do with these dongles? Maximizing for the bottom line. That segues to my next slide. Microsoft wants to be everything for everyone, everywhere at the same time. That leads you to another set of problems, right? You're trying to do everything all the time. That means you have all these balls that you're juggling. You're going to drop things, right? If you're only doing one thing, it's very easy to be good at that one thing. When you're doing everything, it's really hard to do everything. However, one thing that really shows that they're going that direction is they have an adaptive controller for video games. And most of us here don't have major disabilities, but imagine if you're a child growing up and you have disabilities, but you still want to play games with your friends. This is an interface that Microsoft made for those people. Once again, it goes back to the being everything for everyone as much as possible, all at the same time. And there's another thing at the back end of that that really ties in, but that's really how they're approaching it. And they probably developed this with a loss in R&D, because if you think about it, how many of these units are they going to sell? They're probably not going to sell enough to recoup the R&D costs. However, they will sell enough to show that, hey, we're trying to be very open, very flexible, very inclusive. You can customize it however you want. One of us could buy it and we can have it as much as we can customize it however we want as well. So that's one thing. So we have these two things in mind. We have Apple, we have Microsoft. But we're talking about analysis. And the two stories that I've already told you really tie into this thing of changing your perspective, right? It's very, very easy to only have owned one thing and say that one thing is good. But it's a different thing to have owned one thing and then gone completely in to another thing and say, I see the bad things of what I used to have, and I see the good things of what I used to have. and I see the bad things of what I have now, and I see the good things of what I have now, right? You need that balance to be able to say, how am I going to maximize for what my company needs to do? Or how am I going to maximize for what I need to do for my client? It's a perspective change. If you see things differently, you'll see the tiger and the gorilla in this picture instead of the tree, right? The change of perspective, right? You look at it one way, you see the tree, you see the birds. You look at it the other way, you see the gorilla, you see the tiger, you see the fish that are jumping out of the lake or the water down below. So once again, it's about changing perspective too. Looking at the goals of your client or your company and then looking for what their true advantage is. So over here we have the two giants, right? And we can just boil down how they've gone into this are, we are the promise of corporate stability for Microsoft, right? They've been the corporate. They're corporate. That's how it's always been, right? And Apple, if you were to boil everything down about what I talked about now, we are the must-have status symbol. That's what it is, right? And you want to make sure, they want to make sure that that's what they have. Understanding this helps us once again in competitive analysis. Now we're getting ready to actually do some together, but really quick, another thing that I want to talk about is, I talked about the whole Apple, Microsoft thing as a starter to get us all warmed up. But if you're in a boxing match, imagine if your coach was like, oh man, that other dude, he has the greatest punches and he's so fast, you're not gonna beat him. That would just be demoralizing. You don't wanna be like that, right? You'd say, yeah, he has faster punches, right? But you can take these blows. Yeah, he might be stronger, but you're faster at dodging this or whatever the boxing analogies are that you'd wanna toss in there. So you wanna make sure that you're staying in your corner. Yes, it's good to recognize what your competitors have that are good features, good products, or good measures. And then you wanna see, is that something that I need to go toe-to-toe with? Do I have to actually compete with that directly? Or is there something else that I can do around that? Or can I be in a completely different space altogether? I'm on a Karate Kid kick, so the Karate Kid analogy would be when Mr. Miyagi told Daniel-san, the best way to avoid a punch is not to be there. If you don't have to be in the same market space as your competitors, then you're not competing with them anymore. Awesome. Another thing we need to talk about are, and I'm going to go back to this slide really quick, competitors. Are Microsoft and Apple competitors? This is a question for all of you. Are they competitors? You said no. Why not? Okay, so Microsoft and Apple market to different types of people, okay? What would that be? Do you want to get her the mic?
No. It just depends. So, like you're saying, it's a status symbol. So it markets to the creatives and for the status symbol as well. So the people who take it for the status symbol are buying it because it's just the sleek design, just to say they own Apple. But the people who are creatives buy it because their programs run better on it.
Okay.
So, and then like you're saying, Microsoft is corporate stability. It's cheaper. To me, it's not as reliable. People will buy it, and 2 to 4 years later, you're buying you another one. And so.
Okay. So then what's Microsoft's competitor and who would be Apple's competitor now that we have that? Anyone? The mic will come around.
I'd say Apple's competitor is probably Samsung.
Okay.
Or Google with the Google Pixel, or anybody that has like what do you call that? Like a phone service or anything like that. Microsoft, probably, I don't know, I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now.
Okay.
I'm blanking.
Okay, so then I would probably go back and say probably Microsoft's biggest competitor would be Amazon with Amazon Web Services because, once again, they're looking at the corporate space, right? That's what they do. And there might be some other cloud providers that compete really strongly with Microsoft. But for Apple, once again, like you said, probably Samsung and Google are their competitors. Other smaller phone makers are competitors. Anybody who's making devices for the creative space to run on other platforms are also their competitors as well. So it's important to know this as well as we go in. Thank you. Okay, well then let's go ahead and do this. And I might have a few of you move around. If I can have you guys move over here. We're going to split this up. This whole talk started as, there was a talk here a few months ago where we were talking about Spotify versus Pandora. And it was really, Spotify is better. Just like with Microsoft, Apple, we tend to say Apple is better. And we weren't focusing as much on the analysis. However, we're going to look at the analysis over here. So we're redoing this. Knowing what we know now, we're going to kind of suss out between Pandora and Spotify, what is their competitive advantage, okay? So we're not looking at who is better, right? I'm just gonna split this up. Okay. I want you to pick a number between 1 and 10. 5. Okay. You guys are the Pandora side. You guys are the Spotify side, okay? And I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to get together. You can pair up as a group, to really find out what the competitive advantage is for your product. So Pandora, what is it? And what is the value you bring to users? Same over here with Spotify. What is the value you bring to users? And just like we talked about with Microsoft, is Microsoft really Apple's competitor? And you want to be thinking about that as you go in and take a look at this, okay? I'll give you 5 minutes. I'll walk around, kind of hear what you guys are talking about, and then we'll come back and we'll convene and we'll aggregate this up. Okay, so let's go ahead and reconvene. And we have a few questions which are really good questions. And I think they'll be answered later on in the presentation too, but we'll talk about them now. But before those questions, hold your questions really quick. We're taking a look at the value proposition of Spotify versus Pandora. Okay? Over here, let's start with Spotify first. And is there somebody who wants to talk on that?
Sure.
Okay.
Integrations with other services, other tools was probably the most important feature set, if you will, for Spotify. Being able to kind of access your Spotify account on different devices. Someone just said that it's now available on Google Maps. I don't even know how that works, to be honest with you. Sharing with other users. Being able to download a list and kind of listen offline. But the biggest one was probably integrations with other tools and services.
Okay, very good. What about over here with Pandora?
Our small little group, I think Pandora is more curated community streaming service, and their competitor would be like a Sirius versus a Spotify, almost. That anyway, that's kind of what we thought about it.
Anything else?
So Pandora provides a military price, which is nice. And if you want to play like a radio for random songs, like in Pandora, you can include multiple songs versus in Spotify you can only have one. So it will adjust, it will make playlist better for you.
Okay. Okay. So we have some. Now, going into this, we're going to talk about value propositions really quick. And this is kind of going to come into what you guys kind of realize, but then I'm going to tell you some things that you probably don't know. And value proposition is really the value that a company or product delivers to customers that differentiates them from the competition. And in this whole discussion, right, just like I went back to changing perspective, looking at things a different way, looking at the balance, right, understanding the good and bads of both, right, because we already had the dichotomy Apple, Microsoft, and we already have another dichotomy, Spotify, Pandora. If you guys are going to be doing competitive analysis for people, right, for other businesses, for your own company, you might not actually like it, but you have to make it better. And coming with the attitude of, well, no, really hinders your ability to look at it and say, this is where we can differentiate. This is how we can move forward. That being said, okay, I would sum up Spotify as your music on your terms. We talked about integration, right? Spotify, you can choose what song you want to listen to. You can make your own playlists. You can do lots of things. That also comes with overhead. You don't have to make your own playlist, but people make your own playlists. How much time do you make doing that, etc.? Where's the customization come from, right? However, Pandora's value proposition is a radio station that adapts to you. It adapts to you. And there's a Vox video on this where they did research on music. They did research on trying to find out something. And Spotify has a few metrics that they use, but Pandora has over 450 metrics that they use to categorize music. So much so that if you train your Spotify radio over time, you can do crazy things like I've done, where I have a K-pop station that only plays K-pop artists with female vocals, and a K-pop station that only plays K-pop artists with male vocals. It 100% differentiates itself, okay? Because they have all of these metrics, they're looking at it. So the value propositions are different. Pandora has a lower price point starting because it's categorized by the FCC, I believe, as a radio station. That gives them the ability to play different things in a different way and start out at a cheaper price. Spotify started out as a different service, which meant that their price started out at a higher price point from the get-go because the FCC said it's not a radio station because you have the ability to choose what you play when you play it, right? That also affects the business as a whole. Imagine that. So we have a lower starting price point. That means that we can get onboard people cheaper and they can just have it, right? Pandora is really just a background thing. It has a lot of similar features to Spotify. Once you upgrade up the tiers, they become very similar. And I think this jumps into a question that you had. You want to bring the mic around? You had a question, because we're talking about the features are pretty much the same as they go up. Right over here.
My question was, did you notice that we all instantly went to features when you asked us to focus on value proposition? And he retorted with, well, is it possible that features make value proposition? That was my question.
Yes. So I did notice that.
Thanks for putting me on the spot.
I'll be putting lots of people on the spot today, trust me. But yes, yeah, I noticed that everyone kind of jumped into features immediately. And how many people develop software or work with companies that develop or work with software in some way, shape, or form? Okay, so what happens whenever you start chasing features, you start accruing development overhead. We need new feature, that means more testing, that means more development time, that means more sprints, that means more bugs that we have to chase down. You start accruing that really quickly. And I already told you my background. I'm a developer, but I do UX by the side and I do all this. And the reason why I want to merge them is because if you're not always chasing features, you can focus more on the stability and what your thing wants to do by itself. Instead of they have feature, so we have feature, right? Going back to the best way to avoid a punch is not be where the punch is gonna be. Well, yeah, they have feature X and we can have feature Y that does something completely different. The people who will come to us for that. The people who go to them for that, right? Here is a conundrum for you. Netflix used to have a lot of Disney movies. Now, very soon, Netflix will have no Disney movies. Netflix has Netflix movies. Which ones do you choose? Netflix? If you don't have kids, Netflix is good. If you have kids, you're probably going to want to go that Disney way. But that being said, right, Disney can say, well, we have the Disney stuff, so if you want the Disney stuff, come to us. If you don't need Disney, that's fine, go to them. That's it. They don't have to be one for one. It doesn't have to be blow for blow. So that being said, let's continue. When you're doing a competitive analysis, you're trying to find their value proposition and how it compares and differentiates them from their competition. So you want to make sure that they're different from their competition. We've done this twice now. So you guys have done the practice once, twice. We did it with the Microsoft Apple thing where I led you. You did the Spotify and Pandora thing where once again you guys kind of broke out. Now we're going to kind of do it for real. We're going to do it live, per se, okay? Here's a company I looked up. I somehow stumbled upon them, okay? If everyone can pull out your devices and go to their website, silentpc.com. This is who we'll be doing a competitive analysis for. It is a real company. They've been in business a long time. You probably haven't heard of them. Their value proposition is very unique. I did a little bit of research ahead of time. I didn't want to go into this completely cold because we have a limited amount of time. But they sell PCs that run silent, okay? PCs can be very specialized. They can do lots of specialized load. No thermal throttling. So a lot of times you get a device that runs fast and thermal throttles. Does anyone know what thermal throttling is?
Where you slow down your computer to mitigate slowing down?
Yes. So what a lot of devices do is, especially thin ones, will slow down your computer as a way to mitigate heat, right? That's thermal throttling. So you have this thin device, it's thin, and it runs fast until you put a lot of stuff on it, and now it runs slow. That's thermal throttling. So they say that they have high-performance machines that run quiet. They have pre-made ones that are semi-customizable, and then they have full custom ones. These are the tools we're going to be using as we jump into this, and this is how I like to go about it. We have on the technical and quantitative side things like website grader, CEO analyzers, CEO graders, Alexa. I like to look up the rank on Alexa, and then just your general business knowledge that you bring, okay? Next, we have UX and visual and qualitative, where you're looking at it with responsive design tools, you're using your own eyes, you're trying to achieve a goal there, and we do have a goal. You're going to want to start out with a beginner's mind, right? I'm new to this. You're going to have insights that other people don't know whenever you're new to a thing. Your initial impressions and observations, as well as what you can see on your cell phone, your desktop, or your tablet. And here's what we're going to use to kind of evaluate and go through this analysis. 1, how easy is it for you to find information on their webpage? 2, do you get frustrated with anything during your search for information? And I'm going to give you a goal to achieve. 3, how easy is it to complete a goal with the methods available? So what they give you, how easy is it to get those to achieve your goal? This is where we're coming at it with a really UX perspective. Marketers might look at this different. What's a marketer's competitive analysis? Completely different than what we're doing. We're saying, how easy is it to use? Can we achieve our goals? Is there anything that leads us to distrust the company? If you don't trust the company, you're not going to give them your money, right? And companies ultimately want money. What are their points of contact? So how can you contact them? How can we find out more information about the company externally? So not just what they have, because what they have is going to be the bubble they've created for you. And you've been in those bubbles where we're great, we're great, we're great, we're great, we're great, we're amazing, so buy our product, right? That's kind of a dark pattern that they do, but how can we find out about them outside of it to see, oh yeah, we can trust them? And would you give them your money for their product? And what are their social channels? Here's our brief. This is what we're working with. I'll just summarize it. Silent PC has been around for lots of years. They haven't plateaued, they're growing, but they'd like to see more growth in small business and specialists, so those people buying what they want. They believe that their website might be hurting these efforts, and they're willing to make some big changes to their website to help gain some customers. They've established themselves as a trustworthy corporation over the last 3 decades and do not want any marketing gimmicks or dark patterns, okay? So those are things that we don't want. I talked about the dark patterns, right? You see them all the time, like the testimonials that say, we're great, we're great, we're great, all that stuff. So we're going to break over here. We're going to take a look at some things. I'm going to do some analysis on my computer to show you guys, but this is our goal. Our goal is to get a computer that we would use for making music. We want to buy a computer that we would use for making music. And I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to go about it. Probably pair off, if you can pair off. Talk with a partner and kind of see, how would I get to making a machine for music? Do they walk me through it enough? What options do I have, and why would I do it? Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to pause the mic over here. Once again, you want to be thinking, who are their competitors? Who are their competitors, right? Who are they competing against too? This is everything what we've done together, tied together, plus some extra. Okay, let's kind of jump back into this really quick. And what did everyone find out since we're kind of pairing off? Yep.
The shop is probably 4 to 5 guys is sitting in the shop making these. So if I have to do high production, that could be a problem. We were able to easily find the music section, but we maybe would have wanted help me filter down by need, not by. Don't just present everything you have to me at once. Ask me, okay, do you want audio? Do you want professional grade? Like, teach me. The carousel and stuff is weird, and it's, you know, not large, so it's kind of, they're hardware heads. They care more about the hardware than the styling, which may not be a concern to you, but that's kind of how we saw their demographic.
Now, I like the insights and the things that you deduced, because I looked through the site last night, and this kind of ties into some of my analysis tools over here. There is, let's see if I can get this to show up on the other screen really quick. There it is. There it goes. Hold on just a second. Is it gonna get over there? There we go. Okay. So this is a tool that I use a lot of times in analysis. It's called Website Grader. And you just toss in a website and you go. And it grades it based on a number of things, a number of metrics. You can see over here, 87 is pretty good. On mobile, they're good. Their SEO is excellent. Their security is excellent. Their performance is okay. But lots of sites that are done for businesses that aren't tech heads, they score quite lower on this scale. So it is going to what you're saying. They seem like maybe they are tech heads. They care more about the tech than their appearance. And that's something that I can deduce from that. That's something I was thinking last night when I was going through the website, and you said that, so that's a little bit more confirmation over there that, yeah, they probably do care about that quite a bit. Yep. And then the filtering as well, what you said, I had that same feeling that I think I know what I want, but I want to be able to filter down easy. But the way that filtering is set up, the way the page is set up, it's a little frustrating for me to get to where I want to get as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. Very good.
I wanted to add to that, looking at some of the external sources, so doing a Google search and trying to figure out, you know, what other people are saying about the company, made me think that, you know, this is really I think they could curtail their site more to that niche of the professional audio person. So that value proposition may, you know, if they're selling silent computers, maybe a little bit more that tends to attract, maybe more ad copy that's going to attract that kind of an audience. So reading some of the reviews, I mean, these are all from people who, says, seriously, ignore the crappy website though. But absolutely the best computer you'll ever buy. In other words, if you need a professional audio setup, these are the guys. So kind of gave some insight into the kind of audience they may be looking at.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to add? There's lots going around. Anyone? Sure. Go ahead.
So I think you kind of alluded to this already, but you know, kind of creating personas, so to speak, and instead of having systems that are designed by, you know, fan lists and whatever, based on technical specs, you know, it could be for the music industry, it could be for, I think you guys kind of alluded to this, but I like when I go to websites to tell me, okay, this is for the developer, this is for the business manager, this is for whatever. That would be helpful, because I was kind of struggling to understand who actually needs these things. Not me, but there's a market for them. I don't know who those people are.
And that goes back to the beginner's eyes that I've talked to you about, right? Like having that beginner's mindset, seeing it for the first time. You only see those insights if you're seeing it for the first time. You're like, what is this? You get used to it. You're in the same ruts that they are, right? You don't want to be the subject matter expert. I try my best not to be a subject matter expert, because I'm always going to look at it differently than somebody who knows what it is. Over there.
So while I was looking at this, at some of the choices for the digital audio workstations, some of their stuff was listed like this PC is our top choice. But then right below it, the other one said, this is PC is our top choice. And, you look down at like the specs in the table, and if someone's coming to you and they're like, oh, my friend told me about this website, go buy your computer from there. If they're not like super tech literate, they're not gonna really understand what's going on. Like, why does all this stuff matter? What's, DDR4? What's Xeon? What's all this stuff? And so, like, none of that stuff matters to them, so they just gloss over it. Almost to the point, like, is it worth putting up there in, like, such a in-your-face way? Like, why not just hide that information, and then if someone wants to, like, I want to know more about this, what are the specs? And you just click on a button that says, like, specs.
So then you want to have an option to drill down easier, more of an give us the overview, and then more options to drill down in a way that's understandable for somebody who's approaching this that doesn't necessarily understand what all the different components of it means, correct?
Correct.
Yep. Over here.
So just in terms of the web UX, because I think we're trying to make assumptions about the product based on the UX of the website.
Exactly. And that's a good assumption to make.
Which people do.
Yes, exactly.
Sometimes we wish they wouldn't, but they do. I think one of the things they're doing is that they're assuming that this buyer is educated and is already in a consideration or comparison phase of their buying journey, because they don't let. There's an assumption that they already value the technology. So, and if that's okay, if there's enough market share for people who already value this technology, there's no attempt to sell that this technology is better than not having it at all. There's an assumption there. So what happens is when someone comes and lands on this page, there's nothing that confirms to them at all that they have hit the right spot, that this is for them.
Yes.
And so on UX side, there needs to be some visual cues as to, I'm coming here because I am a what, or because I'm looking for a what, instead of basically a catalog. They don't help the user get to a point of value upon landing at all.
100% agreed. 100% agreed.
And quite frankly, they really have two personas. They have the gaming persona and they have the music, audio workshop, whatever. So if that's their real competitive advantage in the industry, then those two should be front and center, and let those two personas find what they need to find immediately. And I think they would do well if they would focus on those two. We had to hunt for I didn't even know the music thing was there until he said it. And I asked, does a music person know they need this?
Perfect.
I assume they do.
Perfect. Yeah. Anything else?
So similar to what he said about knowing that you're on the page where you want to be, I know a decent amount about computers, and so silent PCs are a niche thing. If someone's buying them, they're buying in a niche. And so one of the first things I'd seen on the home page was a banner ad that advertised budget gaming. And if I was selling a niche product, I wouldn't want to advertise that I'm also a budget product, because that doesn't exactly sell the trustworthiness. You don't have a lot of people to pick from. You don't necessarily want to be the one claiming that you have this great budget deal. So you had talked about trustworthiness earlier. Now, on the other hand, they do a good job of advertising the product in the name itself. If you know what you're looking at, they do point out the processor and the motherboard in the name of the link. So they do some things right, but having those banner ads at the top, I just don't think those help at all tell you that you're on the site that you want to be on.
And one thing we didn't talk about is actually your modality, as in the modality that you're using to see the page. So there were some of you that looked at it from your phones. There were some of you that looked at it from your computers. You all gleaned different information. I think some of you looked at it on your tablets. And based on which device you're going at it with, you're going to see completely different things as well. There's a lot that we can go into, but we're going to have to start wrapping up here pretty soon. Any questions?
The site does a good job of trying to reiterate that we are there for you. If you look at all the pages, they keep reiterating the fact that you can ask us questions. They have put in all the information there, where we are open, where we are located, numbers, and so on. But I think this would have been an ideal place where they had the contact chat feature.
Yes.
Because this is, and that's the only thing they missed on that part. So
You're talking about the little like dot that's in the bottom.
Yeah.
I think out of all of the places I've seen it, this company would be the one that would benefit the most because, like you said, they want to customize it to you.
Yeah.
So you want to increase the flow to that channel of, hey, we'll customize it to whatever
Right
you want.
there.
Right?
Right
And
there.
it's right there front and center. Most of the time you're like, I'm going to buy a ring. I'm going to buy a cheap $50 ring from you. Why am I getting this chat thing? Like, I don't. But in this case,
it would have been ideal because, again, they are niche. So if they are niche, there will always be questions because if there is an expectation that there are some really techie people coming in, they will always have questions. So that would have been ideal.
Yep. Cool. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here. Finally, we have deliverables. Basically, after doing something like this, I make a SWOT report where you say the strengths and weaknesses of whatever it is you're doing. After that, I get a report of the SEO analysis, and then I'd give them a recommended action list. Is pretty much where I would go from here. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at it. Just a competitive analysis. Here are my references. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. And I hope you enjoy your day. Thank you.